we started to create exhibitions that worked intentionally for parents. So I remember we were measuring how far apart parents can sit with the baby's play space in the middle to allow parents to talk to each other. Not how far does the babies need the spaces, but how close together will strangers talk to each other. And that became very interesting to me. And out of that piece of experience, I started to pay attention to where are the safe spaces for strangers to interact, and what are civic responsibilities to be, what is the museum's role in civic responsibility to make it possible for strangers not only to feel safe but to learn from each other. And the preschool space was a space where we started to work very hard on how do you make it possible for strangers to learn about parenting, to learn about watching their children, and to be able to converse with each other.
Were there times when that was difficult, having young ones in the building? Did you have to develop differently?
Well, it's always difficult when you build a museum for one audience and another audience decides to use your place. It works in both directions for you. One of the things that I've written about children's museums is that children's museums talk a lot about inclusion, but in fact the primary audience for children's museums who are paying the admission are middle-class people who understand how to use the system. And it is difficult to run an institution for audiences whose competing interests are not synchronous all the time. So when you had babies, in certain ways they drove out kids who didn't want to be associated with them. On the other hand, we discovered, both through Jerry's work and through Susan LeBlanc's work and through your work, Pat, that if we got the babies out of the place, closed the place, then adolescents who had not had enough childhood thought the place was truly wonderful. So we were really interested in what you do in a place when you have competing interests. We learned a whole lot, for example, when we started Kids at Risk, that if you have babies in the place, then very tough, very damaged kids will do much better, because one of the things they see themselves as are the protectors of the infirm and the protectors of the young. So babies and Kids at Risk was a great combination, which we didn't know until we started to play with it. But high-achieving 10-year-olds coming with their parents, seeing all the babies, that was difficult for us. And getting the schools to understand that they could learn something in a place that they now saw as for babies was a different set of negotiations. What was wonderful about the Boston Children's Museum is how intellectually rich it was, how we would play with the variables based on this kind of thinking.